Hello and welcome. This is Eric from AG Racing Central. Racing game is a niche genre, with a couple of big franchises stealing most of the attention. That makes it easy for a solid title to slip under the radar, which is exactly what I think happened to the games I'm going to talk about in this video, where I present my list of 5 racing games that I think are underrated. That being said, these are all my personal opinions, so feel free to disagree with me in a constructive way in the comment section. Let's get started with the list. Number 1. Xenon Racer. For mostly dedicated indie developers, we actually do have quite a few Wipeout and F-Zero inspired anti-gravity racing games. What we don't have a lot of is futuristic racing games featuring sci-fi looking cars, which is why I think Xenon Racer is an overlooked title. With one foot in reality and one foot in a crazy over-the-top futuristic racing league, Xenon Racer brings a unique visual experience, even if the core gameplay is similar to many arcade car racing games out there. As with many games like this, the game mechanics are centered around drifting, and this is well executed here as you have just the right amount of control of your vehicle while sliding through the corners. The cars will have some weight to them without feeling too clunky, and there's an exhilarating sense of speed when you use the boost on the stretches. Speaking of boosting, your boosts are charged with an ERS or Energy Recovery System that charges when you drift. This is actually derived from a real mechanic featured in Formula 1 cars, even though the batteries of those cars are charged while braking. Xenon Racer features a campaign with branching paths and numerous different real-world locations, and it's during the campaign you unlock more cars. The robust upgrade and customization system is also a highlight of the game. The unlockable and stylish visual parts and liveries can be customized with different colors and patterns to your heart's content, and you can definitely lose yourself for a while in the garage mode. Xenon Racer is available on all major gaming platforms.
ERS accumulator has been recharged.
Number 2. Star Wars Racer Revenge. Before we talk about this game though, let's first talk about the game that came before it, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, released for Nintendo 64 in 1999. Back in the 90s, movie tie-in games were usually mediocre cash grabs, but ironically, Star Wars Episode 1 Racer is one of the most critically acclaimed Star Wars games out there. It featured deep gameplay mechanics for a racing game, like resource management, overheating, pitching, banking, and also a creative upgrade system centered around Otto's workshop. The sequel, Star Wars Racer Revenge for the PS2, was not as well received, but I would argue that the game is much better than people give it credit for. The gameplay watching for both games are captured from the versions available on PS4 and PS5, and Racer Revenge is a bit of an inferior port here, with slower framerate updates, and the game is not optimized for widescreen either. Also, gone were some of the more advanced mechanics like banking, but all this being said, even though it's slightly dumbed down, Racer Revenge is still worth your time. The game features a career mode with numerous playable characters and their distinct ships, as well as plentiful different tracks spread out over iconic Star Wars locations. There's also depth to the gameplay, as you'll need to master the drift mechanic, as well as manage your boost resource, while also keeping an eye on your ship's health. I also found the bounty system a lot of fun, where you are rewarded with cash for destroying your opponents.
Repair bill. Alvarito is done for the day.
Cash then spent on ship upgrades. If you're looking for a decent continuation of Episode 1 Racer, don't rule out Star Wars Racer Revenge. Number 3. Team Sonic Racing. Squeezed in between the releases of Mario Kart 8 and Crash Team Racing, Team Sonic Racing was off to a rough start to say the least. The untimely release is of course one of the reasons this game never really hit it off, but the game was also criticized for essentially being not as good as Sonic Racing Transformed, and a lot of the good ideas the developers had wasn't highlighted enough, which is why I'm placing Team Sonic Racing on my list of underrated racing games. First off, the game features a fully voiced story mode that's also integrated in the official Sonic lore, and while it is skippable, it's well scripted and also nice that it's there. The campaign is what you'd expect from a game like this, with various race types spread out over a map with decent replayability courtesy of the extra rewards each event offers. The gameplay follows the classic kart racing formula, with drifting that earns you boost, weapon pickups, tricks in the air, and so on. Nothing in this regard is groundbreaking, but nevertheless it is all very well executed, and the game feels great to play. As the name implies though, Team Sonic Racing features numerous team play mechanics. In fact, you generally don't compete in a free-for-all format like in most racing games, but rather in teams of 3, pitted against each other. Teammates can help each other by, for example, creating a slipstream that other racers on the team can navigate through for a speed boost. You can also send picked up items to each other from across the track and occasionally activate a team ultimate ability. The individual placement of each racer is translated into a score that determines the winning team by the end of each race. For whatever reason, the concept of team versus team isn't all that common in racing games, which is why Team Sonic Racing stands out a bit. The mechanics work well too, and as a concept, it's a great way to race with a less experienced relative, for example, rather than against each other. The character roster is decent, but may come off as modest when compared to other similar games, even though the most iconic of Sonic's friends are playable here. Each character falls into 3 different archetypes: speed characters that are generally faster but harder to control, power characters that don't spin out when hit by weapons and can smash through objects without slowing down, and technique characters with excellent agility and the ability to take shortcuts outside the regular track without losing speed. Even though each character is locked to a specific vehicle, that vehicle can be customized with mods and colors to quite a large extent. Team Sonic Racing is a solid enough game with unique gameplay mechanics to be well worth checking out. Number 4. TRAILBLAZERS. TRAILBLAZERS has received mixed reviews, and while I completely understand why this is the case, I still think there are numerous aspects about this game that have been overlooked. I'm very well aware of the fact that I've mentioned this game multiple times before in other videos. First off, it's an anti-gravity racing game, my favorite racing game subgenre, and TRAILBLAZERS is also unique, both from a visual presentation and also from a gameplay perspective. This is also a game focused around team-based mechanics. Each racer has the ability to drop ink behind themselves, and if you fly over ink of your team's color, you receive a significant speed boost. I'll admit that the base speed of the ships feel a tad slow, and the controls, while passable, are not really top-notch when compared to the game's strongest competitors. However, the aforementioned speed boost increases the longer you manage to stay inside the ink, and the result is some truly neck-breaking speeds that should give any player an adrenaline rush. Coordinating long stretches of ink is of course almost impossible with an AI teammate, and with no online community, the ink concept is more a testament to what could have been. Another overlooked aspect of TRAILBLAZERS is the visual presentation, along with the game's funk-inspired music. Anti-gravity racing games have always been about style and attitude, and here it is presented in a different way, with goofy-looking characters and vehicles that melts together perfectly with the tunes played during the races. And there's a story-driven campaign too. You might as well pick up TRAILBLAZERS when you have the chance. It's dead cheap when on sale and available on all major gaming platforms. Number 5. Mantis Racing. Mantis Racing represents to me an entirely overlooked subgenre, which is a top-down racing game. I completely understand why the first or third person perspective is to be preferred in most cases, but a top-down view in my opinion gives you a more dynamic and cinematic feeling, and it also gives you another perspective to examine the ever-important racing lines. When it comes to top-down racing games, Mantis Racing is one of your best options. It doesn't offer any story, but a very lengthy campaign with a good number of tracks spread out over different environments, both off-road and urban. The controls are as simple as they come. You hit the gas or brake, and use the occasional turbo that's charged up by drifting. That's about it, but the gameplay in this game is really top-notch. The campaign gives you cash and gear that are used for buying new vehicles and upgrading them. Once a set number of upgrade parts are equipped, your vehicle levels up and also gets a slightly altered look, which is a neat touch. The vehicles are locked to a specific class, and DLC released for this game even added combat vehicles and anti-gravity racing vehicles, so there's really something for everyone here. Let me know in a comment if you agree with me that these games are underrated or if you are of a different opinion. If you're interested in another very underrated racing game called Phantom Spark, then click on this video. Thank you for watching. I am Eric from AJ Racing Central, and I'll see you in the next video.